This is the story of 21 men who stood against 10,000. Their names might not be in every history book, but their bravery echoes through time. They didn't fight for conquest or riches, they fought for honor. What drove them to make the ultimate sacrifice? And how did they hold their ground in the face of such overwhelming odds? This is the Battle of Saragarhi, a tale of defiance, courage, and the unbreakable human spirit. Buckle up, because you're about to witness one of history's greatest last stands. The ticking time bomb of the frontier. In the late 19th century, the British Empire was engaged in a shadow war with its greatest rival, Russia, for dominance in Central Asia. This high-stakes rivalry, known as the Great Game, had ripple effects far beyond Europe. The frontier region of British India became a chessboard where the British sought to fortify their control while countering Russian influence. Caught in this geopolitical crossfire were the Pashtun tribes, a fiercely independent people who had thrived in these harsh mountains for centuries. Their warrior culture and deep knowledge of the terrain made them formidable opponents. The British, despite their technological and logistical superiority, struggled to maintain a foothold in this hostile environment. To assert control over the region, the British constructed a network of forts along key mountain passes, creating a tenuous chain of security. Each fort served as a symbol of imperial authority, but they were also isolated, vulnerable outposts. Among them were Fort Lockhart and Fort Gulistan, perched on the edges of a barren landscape. Linking these two forts was a tiny communication post called Saragarhi. From a strategic standpoint, it was unremarkable, a modest stone structure built to relay messages between the larger forts. But what it lacked in size or strategic importance, it would more than make up for in the courage of its defenders. The Guardians of Saragarhi. The defense of Saragarhi was entrusted to a platoon of the 36th Sikh Regiment, a unit that had earned its reputation for discipline, loyalty, and unparalleled bravery. For these soldiers, duty wasn't just a job, it was a sacred calling. At the core of their identity was their faith. As Sikhs, they adhered to principles of courage, sacrifice, and service to humanity. The regiment's motto, Nishai kar apni jeet karon, with determination I will be triumphant, was more than words, it was a way of life. Leading this group of 21 men was Havildar Ishar Singh, a seasoned soldier who commanded respect not through rank, but through his actions. Ishar Singh was known for his unwavering composure under pressure and his ability to inspire loyalty among his men. Though small in number, his platoon was a tightly knit brotherhood. These men were more than comrades. They were family. Each soldier understood that their survival depended on the person standing next to them. This bond would be put to the ultimate test in the days to come. The gathering storm. Unbeknownst to the defenders, trouble was brewing just beyond the horizon. The Pashtun tribes, long resentful of British interference in their lands, had united under a common cause. Their goal, to sever British control of the frontier and reclaim their autonomy. On September 12, 1897, over 10,000 Pashtun fighters gathered to lay siege to Fort Gulistan and Fort Lockhart. Their first target was Saragarhi, the weakest link in the chain. Destroying it would cut communication between the forts, leaving them isolated and vulnerable. At dawn, the watchtower at Saragarhi spotted the advancing force. Dust clouds rose into the air as the massive army approached, its sheer size creating an almost surreal spectacle. Inside the outpost, the defenders realized they were facing an impossible situation. The decision to fight. As the reality of their predicament sank in, Ishar Singh assembled his men. He explained their options: abandon the post and retreat to safety at Fort Lockhart, or stay and fight. Knowing reinforcements could not arrive in time, the choice was theirs to make. But for these men, there was no real choice. To abandon Saragarhi would be a stain on their honor, a betrayal of the trust placed in them by their comrades and their faith. One by one, they pledged to stand their ground, no matter the cost. Their first act was to send an urgent message to Fort Lockhart. We are under attack. Need reinforcements immediately. The reply was swift but devastating. No reinforcements could reach them in time. They were on their own. With that, the defenders of Saragarhi prepared to make their stand. They weren't just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for their brothers in arms, their regiment's honor, and the ideals they had sworn to uphold. The onslaught begins. At 9 a.m., the first wave of the Pashtun assault began. A deafening roar filled the air as thousands of warriors advanced toward the outpost. For the men inside Saragarhi, this was no ordinary enemy. The Pashtuns were seasoned fighters who had grown up in these rugged hills, their skills honed over generations of tribal conflict. Armed with Martini Henry rifles, the Sikhs unleashed a disciplined volley of fire. The Martini Henry was a powerful single-shot, breech-loading rifle capable of delivering devastating accuracy. Each man knew that every bullet mattered. They had no room for waste. Despite suffering heavy casualties, the Pashtuns pressed on, their sheer numbers making them almost impossible to stop. For every attacker that fell, more rushed forward, stepping over the bodies of their comrades to scale the walls of the outpost. The defenders fought with every ounce of strength, their training and determination keeping the attackers at bay. It wasn't just their rifles they relied on. When the Pashtuns came too close, the Sikhs resorted to hand-to-hand combat, wielding bayonets and swords with deadly efficiency. Hour after hour, the battle raged on. The Pashtuns launched wave after wave of assaults, testing the limits of the defenders' endurance. But the men of Saragarhi held their ground, refusing to give an inch. A test of endurance. As the day wore on, the defenders faced a grim reality. Their ammunition was running dangerously low. Every shot had to count, every decision weighed with life and death consequences. The Pashtun forces, sensing the defenders' weakening position, intensified their efforts, their chants growing louder with each charge. Havildar Ishar Singh knew the odds were growing bleaker by the minute, but he also knew that surrender was not an option. To inspire his men, he reminded them of their duty, not just to their regiment, but to their faith and their ancestors. They were not merely soldiers, they were guardians of a legacy that demanded honor above all else. For these men, the battle was no longer just about survival. It had become a testament to their resilience and their refusal to bow before overwhelming force. Each soldier was prepared to give his life, knowing that his sacrifice would not be forgotten. As the Pashtun warriors surged closer, the fighting grew more desperate. The defenders were battered, exhausted, and outnumbered, but their spirit remained unbroken. Their determination to hold the line was as immovable as the stone walls they defended. The final charge. By late afternoon, the walls of Saragarhi had been breached. The Pashtuns, having suffered devastating losses, finally overwhelmed the outer defenses. But even as the enemy swarmed into the outpost, the defenders refused to retreat. Ishar Singh led his men in a final desperate counterattack. Outnumbered hundreds to one, they fought with the ferocity of warriors who knew they were making history. Swords clashed against rifles, bayonets met blades, and the air was filled with the cries of both the dying and the defiant. One by one, the defenders fell. Each man took down as many attackers as he could, his final moments a testament to his unyielding resolve. Even as death loomed, the soldiers of Saragarhi fought with every ounce of strength, ensuring their stand would not be in vain. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, the outpost was silent. All 21 defenders were dead, but their stand had cost the Pashtuns dearly. Over 600 of their fighters lay lifeless on the battlefield. The sheer scale of their sacrifice would ripple far beyond the northwest frontier. The legacy of Saragarhi. News of the battle spread quickly, reaching the ears of British officials and military leaders. The defenders of Saragarhi were hailed as heroes, their courage becoming the stuff of legend. For the British Empire, their sacrifice was a rallying cry, a reminder of the unbreakable spirit of its soldiers. But for the Sikh community, the legacy of Saragarhi went deeper. It became a symbol of their resilience, their devotion, and their unwavering commitment to their values. Today, the battle is commemorated every year on September 12th as Saragarhi Day, a day of pride and remembrance. The story of Saragarhi is more than just a tale of war. It is a story of unity, of standing firm in the face of impossible odds, and of leaving behind a legacy that transcends time. The names of those 21 men, Havildar Ishar Singh, Sepoy Bhagwan Singh, Sepoy Lal Singh, and their comrades, live on as a testament to what it means to stand for something greater than oneself. Their story is one of history's greatest examples of courage, and it continues to inspire generations. Why Saragarhi still inspires. In a world that often challenges us to compromise, the defenders of Saragarhi remind us of the power of unyielding resolve. Their story is not just history, it is a lesson for us all. Stand firm, no matter the odds.